Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today we're plunging into a pretty complex topic that really touches every modern business: governance, risk, and compliance GRC, and the growing complexities around global data transfer. Our mission for you, our listener, is basically to cut through the noise, pull out the key insights from our sources, and give you a clear, actionable take on GRC automation, navigating common compliance rules, and tackling those tricky cross-border data issues.
And it's really crucial right now. I mean, this isn't just about checking boxes anymore, is it? Data is flowing across borders like never before. Regulations are constantly shifting, evolving, and businesses, they're facing this, bewildering alphabet soup of compliance requirements. The big shift we're seeing is that GRC isn't just defense anymore. It's actually about proactively maintaining integrity, building real resilience against, constant disruption.
That's a really important mindset shift. So, if we're talking resilience, let's unpack this a bit. Why automate GRC? Why do it in the first place? I mean, it can sound like just another tech layer to manage, right? But our sources point to some really compelling reasons. It seems to go way beyond just efficiency.
Oh, absolutely. The benefits are pretty significant and tangible, too. Take cost reduction, for instance. It's huge. Sources show ServiceNow customers, on average, slash their audit costs by something like 80%, just by automating GRC. Think about the resources that frees up. And beyond that direct saving, automation massively improves visibility into all your GRC work. You get a much clearer picture of your risks. And of course, the time savings, automating those really administrative tasks like gathering evidence for audits, that's enormous.
Yeah, the time saving alone sounds like a total game changer for so many teams. I've heard stories, companies just drowning in spreadsheets trying to keep up before they automate it. Is it really that dramatic?
It honestly can be. Manual evidence collection, control monitoring, they're just massive time sinks. And it goes further. Automation cuts down risks through continuous control monitoring, which means you catch problems when they're small, right? Before they blow up into major incidents. Plus, it lets you respond much faster, more agilely to business needs and regulatory changes, which, like we said, are happening all the time.
Okay, so it's not just cost cutting, it's enabling a fundamentally different way of thinking about risk, more proactive, almost like having an early warning system built right in. Our sources highlight several pretty impactful steps for automating GRC. I'd love to dig into a couple. One that jumped out at me was this idea of rationalizing and consolidating your controls.
Right.
What does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah, that's crucial. It's this concept, basically, of test once, comply many. So imagine you're a company, maybe you deal with multiple regulators. You might have SOX for finance, EPA for health data, PCI for credit cards. You'd quickly see a lot of overlap in the controls they all require. If you treat each rule separately, you end up with redundant audits, tons of wasted effort, literally thousands of work hours down the drain.
Right. So instead of doing the same checks over and over for different auditors, you find the common ground.
Yeah.
I know there are tools out there like the Unified Compliance Framework, UCF.
Yeah.
They're specifically designed to help map these things, right? Find those shared controls for you.
Precisely. They do the heavy lifting. It's all about setting up a single consolidated set of controls. You test that shared control one time, and that single test demonstrates you're compliant across multiple frameworks. It just eliminates duplication, streamlines things massively. Another really critical step is defining what's actually important, what really matters. Because if you don't define your scope, what's core to your business, controls often get slapped on everywhere, whether they're important or not.
And that leads to what the sources call deficiency noise, which just sounds exhausting.
It's more than just exhausting. It's a serious misallocation of your resources. This isn't just about getting fewer minor alerts. It's about focusing your efforts where they count. We've seen companies get completely bogged down by alerts from non-critical systems, and meanwhile, they're missing the real risks lurking in their high-value data. By pinpointing what truly matters, you let your security team act like, sharpshooters, not just general guards. They can focus on neutralizing the critical threats efficiently.
That makes a lot of sense. Focus the firepower. And for those of you listening, looking for ways to navigate this maze of frameworks and common controls, you might find tools like www.compliancehub.wiki incredibly useful. It's got comprehensive info on global privacy laws and compliance frameworks. And also www.globalcompliancemap.com. That's an interactive global privacy law navigator. These kinds of resources can really help you see that bigger picture and manage all the different rules, tying right back into that test once, comply me idea. Now, building on that, consolidating frameworks to manage complexity. There's an even bigger challenge when data starts crossing borders, literally. How do organizations even start to handle this alphabet soup? SOC2, GDPR, HIPAA, NIST. ISO, without just getting completely burned out by audit fatigue.
Yeah. Audit fatigue, it's a very real thing. It plagues industries with heavy regulation. It's that deep frustration, the operational burden from just constant, often overlapping audits. The symptoms are pretty clear. Strained resources, employee burnout, more human error, missed deadlines, and manual processes. They're often a huge part of the problem. One source said 81% of compliance pros spend 30% or more of their time just on admin tasks.
Well, 81% spending nearly a third of their time on admin. That's staggering.
Right.
But is it always just about the manual stuff? Or are there, deeper organizational things, maybe cultural issues that automation can't fully fix, things that still add to that fatigue?
That's a fair point. While automation tackles the manual load head on, you're right, those cultural bits can linger. If the organization doesn't really buy into the whole integrated compliance philosophy, teams might still work in silos, causing friction. But with a common control framework, a CCF, you're not just automating tasks, you're fundamentally changing how compliance gets managed. A CCF helps tackle all those multiple requirements by collecting, consolidating, correlating the overlapping controls across different frameworks. This lets you do things like optimize audits, reuse evidence, optimize cost-less prep work, develop baseline controls for consistency.
Okay, so if you're doing, say, a SOC2 audit, you could potentially use the same evidence for an ISO 27001 assessment, not start from scratch each time.
Exactly that. You find the common ground in controls and evidence, cut out the duplicate work, and continuous monitoring is huge here too. It means you track how effective your controls are all year round, you fix issues proactively as they pop up so you're not scrambling right before an audit hits. Consolidating audits helps too, maybe rolling multiple audits into one bigger assessment. And technology, of course, is key. GRC platforms automate tasks, give you real-time monitoring, centralized policies, controls, risks. Even AI is getting involved now, boosting efficiency and accuracy for things like finding anomalies, identifying malware, incident response, vulnerability detection.
Even with all that streamlining, I'm curious, what happens when regulations have those subtle but really important differences, like breach notification times? I know GDPR is super strict compared to some U.S. laws, right?
That's a perfect example of the kind of nuance you still need to watch carefully. GDPR says no more than 72 hours for notification. Very precise. Whereas the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, just says without unreasonable delay. So, while they both require notification, that 72-hour GDPR deadline is stricter, which often means companies just have to aim for the stricter rule to be safe across both. It really highlights that even with common controls, the devil's in those regional details.
That's a great illustration. Okay, let's zoom out now to the truly global picture. What does all this mean when data actually crosses borders? Because, the digital world doesn't really care about geography, but data privacy laws absolutely do.
Oh, it's an incredibly complex patchwork. You said the digital world has no borders but transferring data. That brings in really intricate challenges. Just think about the sheer number of global data privacy laws. In the U.S., you've got the federal FTC, plus, 14, maybe more state laws like California's CCPA. Then Europe's GDPR, which reaches globally, plus the UK's own version, UK GDPR. China has PIPL, its cybersecurity law. Canada has PIPEDA. Australia, the Privacy Act's 1988. Japan has APPI. And these laws are constantly being updated, sometimes with conflicting rules like how long you can keep data. GDPR pushes for minimization, while HIPAA might require longer retention for health records.
Wow, so just the sheer volume and diversity plus the constant changes, that's a massive compliance hurdle. And on top of that, I've heard about data localization laws. What exactly are those, and how do they make things even trickier?
Right, data localization. These laws demand that data is stored or maybe processed within the country it came from. This isn't just a legal thing. It can mean huge investments in local data centers, local infrastructure. Then you've got the data security risk itself. As information travels, it might go through less secure systems or places with weaker laws. So, yeah, businesses need really robust tech infrastructure, secure networks, advanced encryption, that sort of thing.
Definitely. I've even seen regulators starting to acknowledge really cutting-edge tech, like fully homomorphic encryption, FHE. How do things like that specifically help in this cross-border mess?
FHE is fascinating stuff. Think of it like being able to analyze sensitive data, customer records, financial info while it stays encrypted so you can get insights, maybe collaborate across borders without ever exposing the raw private data. It's a potential game changer for privacy in shared environments. And regulators like Singapore's IMDA and the European Data Protection Board, the EDPB, they're explicitly recognizing its potential. But even with tech like that, just keeping up with the evolving regulations is a constant battle.
It really sounds like an ongoing strategic effort, not just a one-off task.
Right.
So for organizations trying to navigate this global maze, what are the most critical strategies, the best practices they should really focus on?
Well, the absolute foundation, and you really can't protect what you don't know you have, is thorough data mapping and classification. It's like trying to secure your house without knowing where the valuables are or even where all the doors and windows are located. Data mapping does exactly that for your digital assets. It means precisely charting every piece of data, where it comes from, where it lives, who touches it, every path it takes. That step alone immediately shows you where your biggest risks lie and where you need to prioritize security.
That's a really powerful analogy. Know where your digital crown jewels are kept.
Exactly. Then, following that, you need regular risk assessments, ongoing management to constantly review how data is handled, make sure your strategy stays up to date. Implementing strong security measures, good encryption, access controls that becomes non-negotiable. And importantly, getting specialized legal help is pretty crucial for understanding these complex, shifting restrictions. Finally, just practically speaking, building in grace periods to adapt to new rules is smart, given how often things change.
That's incredibly practical advice. And again, for those of you navigating this complex global compliance landscape, remember those tools we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Things like www.compliancehub.wiki for really comprehensive info on global privacy laws and frameworks, and www.globalcompliancemap.com to help visualize and understand these rules worldwide. They seem absolutely essential for modern businesses trying to simplify this global navigation challenge.
Absolutely. And it's a very concrete example of why this is necessary. Just look at the EU's Digital Operational Resilience Act, DORA. It's this comprehensive, evolving regulation aimed squarely at financial services firms. It puts digital operational resilience, cybersecurity right at the forefront. It's got 5 main pillars: ICT risk management, incident management, resilience testing, third-party risk management, and information sharing. And there's a strict compliance deadline, January 17, 2025. DORA just underscores the need for proactive, well-thought-out compliance strategies in today's connected world. It's not just about checking boxes, it's about ensuring you can keep operating.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up our deep dive today, we've looked at the really clear benefits of GRC automation, everything from dramatically cutting audit costs to enabling a much faster, more proactive response to change. We've seen how common control frameworks offer a strategic edge, cutting through that overwhelming alphabet soup of regulations, and easing audit fatigue by letting you test once, comply many. And critically, we navigated the complexities of the cross-border data transfer maze, understanding the diverse global laws and the absolute necessity for sophisticated strategies in tech like FHE, robust data mapping to manage data flows securely and compliantly.
That's right. And the key takeaway, I think, is that compliance isn't just this burden you have to manage anymore. It's genuinely becoming a strategic advantage. It's a cornerstone for building that digital operational resilience, for fostering trust with customers, with partners, and ultimately for gaining a real competitive edge in the market. It's about more than just staying out of trouble. It's actually about thriving.
Absolutely. Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener. As data keeps flowing relentlessly across borders and new regulations pop up seemingly all the time, what do you think will be the ultimate differentiator for organizations? Will it be just meeting compliance, or truly embedding digital operational resilience right into their core, turning this challenge into a genuine competitive advantage, something to mull over? We definitely encourage you to explore these ideas further. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.